Hello, everybody. Thank y'all for stopping by. I know I've been posting a lot of stuff. I know I see a lot of people. A lot of y'all know who Amy is. Y'all know I'm new to this, and I've been trying to add people that can help educate me and my friends and y'all and spread the information. And uh, I got to checking out Amy's Facebook, and I'm a little jealous. She's done some bucket list things, and I'm just going to bring her in here right now. Miss Amy, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much, y'all. Y'all don't know she hadn't made it home yet. She finished work and she is going live from work, and we appreciate her doing this. Um, I guess I love pictures. I love looking at people post pictures and of some of their adventures and everything. And I was looking at some of yours. I've got those you sent me. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show them or not. I'm new at this,
Okay,
so I've got them set as backgrounds, unfortunately. So,
it's okay.
welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Yeah, I just got done
Um,
with parent teacher conferences.
so, 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 where are you from originally?
I'm from Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay,
Was born here, lived in Poland, Ohio, a little suburb, till I got married, moved to Cleveland area, then got divorced, then moved back into Youngstown. So
back home.
I'm back home. Yeah, back home.
Um, I, I, I like to get to know my guests, and so I skim a little bit. So I know you had an encounter. You haven't always been into the subject, right?
Absolutely not. No. I mean, I grew up, seeing unsolved mysteries and all that kind of thing. So I was familiar that there was the legend of Bigfoot, but never ever took it seriously until I saw something strange in 2012. And I'm still not sure what it was. It was far away. I was in a moving car, but I saw something holding onto a tree alongside a body of water here in Ohio. And it was what really sent me down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
And I think most of us are doing this, whatever we're doing, because of being introduced by accident. You
Hmm.
know, if I'd have been, I've always said this, if I've been a couple minutes earlier or later, I never would have known the things that was happening to me. I never would have known what was causing it. And I really wasn't that aware because living in southern Middle Tennessee, it's not the Pacific Northwest. It's not.
Right.
There's little pockets in the country that have the legends. Like in Arkansas and Florida. We had people that said they saw stuff, but they were ridiculed almost immediately to the point you didn't hear anything else. And I heard stories as a kid. The guy that owned my mom and dad's house that they were renting moved back to Nashville because of an incident at their home where I've never told this, I don't believe, but where a hairy arm reached around and swiped at their kid and they screamed, had a security light and they packed up and went back to Nashville, Tennessee. So, but when you're introduced and you know how animals move, you know what a human looks like, you know what a bear looks like. When you see something that sets off those alarms, um, you know it's something you wasn't supposed to see. So that if it had have been maybe a bear, you probably wouldn't be doing this. So I think subconsciously or maybe consciously, you know what you saw. So
Well, I do
um,
know it wasn't a bear. Like it didn't have the stance, it didn't have a muzzle and all of that. So that I
right,
really for sure. But it was about 100 yards away. So could it have been a person very large and wide? Like could it have been a hoax or something? I suppose so. Why they would be there, I don't know.
right.
And I found out pretty quickly after starting to look into it that other people had seen something around that same area. So I don't know what to think about it, but I am like your heart kind of a skeptical person. So I need a little more
right.
up close and personal, not too up close and
And
personal to be
and
sure.
and I have people apologize. They say, "Sorry, I'm a skeptic." No, that's good. That don't believe everything. Analyze what you're hearing, seeing, or whatever, and the people that are telling you. And I welcome that because I really, even though I saw one for about 30 seconds, I'm I'm skeptical of a lot of the things that we see because there's so much out there that is fake for just clicks or attention or whatever.
Yeah, it's
Um,
healthy. It's healthy. Sometimes I wish I wasn't as skeptical as I am, but being around this for a while and knowing some hoaxers and everything, so um, it's made me a little bit gun shy when it comes to, really being sure about things. But I'm definitely open minded about all of it, and I do believe. I often say that I 100% believe that Bigfoot at least existed at one time. I'm like 99 point as close as you can get to that it still exists.
mhm.
It's just there's days where I am positive they exist, and then there's days where, we put so much time into this, people like yourself and myself. I'm like, what if I'm doing this and it's not real? I still get those little doubts in my head. But overall, I really think that they do exist. I just feel like I am the world's worst Bigfoot researcher because I don't,
Well,
I
no.
don't
No,
see
and
any.
I have friends that do, that I've met. I know a guy, he does a podcast, and he has the exact same thoughts. He's talked to so many people around the country. Some days he's sure he's never had an encounter of any kind like that, and he's been out in the woods, a lot, and he tells me all the time, sometimes I just doubt it, but he said, "I've met so many people that I trust and that are not trying to make money off of it. You almost have to pull it out of them,
Right.
and then some of them give you so much detail
Yes.
that it's hard. Like me, I'm sitting in a spot. I guess I didn't know if I was lucky or unlucky. When I started seeing the shows on TV, I thought, well, hey, everybody's seen one of these things. Well, they haven't. So when I did get to see the one, it put me in a different spot. So now I focus on other things, and like we found tracks Tuesday at Bankhead National Forest. My first time finding tracks. They were small, but a lot of the evidence, I go over it with some friends and show them the pictures and whatever. We found the toes, we found those. We did the lidar. My son did. I can't tell you that they are, but I can tell you that I feel like they could be, and that, because of the size. If they were 15 inches, but because they were 9, it's iffy, but with the width of the heel and everything, and it's just there was 5 tracks there and one bigger one that was you kinda can make it out. So, I'm skeptical, and I kinda wanna show some of the pictures, and I kinda don't because I don't wanna say, "Hey, this is what we found," and then
Right.
somebody that really knows that, "No, that's not what that is," so
I often
I
say
I
that,
kinda
but
understand.
I don't want to like fool anybody else, but I mostly don't want to fool myself.
Yes.
Like I don't want to fall for things. So I have, like I said, I've known personally people who used to be my friends that are hoaxers. And
Right.
so when I found that out, I'm just a little more careful. But I absolutely, when I hear a really good story, when I talk to someone, a good witness, and those are the times I'm like, okay, yeah, they,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
exist. So
And it's so hard because, if you're talking to witnesses, we all perceive things different. We all see, like, if I see something that's kind of scary, but I don't panic and I'm taking in detail, the guy beside me would maybe get 5 more minutes looking at it, and all they'll say is, "Well, yeah, it was big and it was brownish black and it had hair on it." Which
right,
some people will focus on the hands, the fingers, how the hands shaped, the walk. It's different. All the eyewitnesses, they see things different. So I totally understand. So y'all, Miss Amy has done some amazing things. And the first thing I saw, I saw the Project Zoo book, but the Olympic Project, I listening, getting into this and listening to some of the podcasts and knowing a little bit about that, watching YouTube and can you tell us how you got into that and exactly where it is for people that don't know?
Sure. I'm always so proud to be a part of the Olympic project. I still pinch myself a bit thinking about when they asked me to join them. It's been about 4 years, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and I met Derek Randalls, who's the head of the Olympic project, and Shane Corson, kind of a right hand man type of guy, out in Washington State when I was out there. Oh gosh, I'm thinking 2018, maybe. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Hey,
2000,
these
maybe
last few years run together,
it was maybe
right?
2017, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I get my dates wrong sometimes. But when I was out there, I just admired them so greatly, how they do their research and everything. And so when I decided that I was kind of go off on my own, because I used to be an investigator for the BFRO, and I got to the point where I was like, I just want to kind of do my own thing here.
Mhm.
Derek and Shane called me and they're like, "Hey, we'd like you to be a part of the Olympic project." And I'm like,
Wow.
"What?" So anyway, I got to be a part of it just because I was very blessed, I think, and just knew the guys. There's a lot of crossover between the Olympic project and Project Zoo Book, which we can talk about in a little bit. But so we have, like I said, some people that in both, and so I've been just very privileged to have been able to go out to Washington State, where it is located, the Olympic National Forest area, Olympic Peninsula. If you don't know about it in a very short little nutshell, the biggest thing that they're known for and that we're researching right now are some ground nests that were found by a logging company surveyor, and they've had a lot of government officials, scientists come in to look at these nests. They're very, very intriguing. I flew out with two of the primate zoologists from Project Zoo Book. They took a look at the nests and I mean, nobody can say for sure if Bigfoot made these or not, but they're very fascinating and they look very, very much like what primates make. So you're in the middle of Washington State, far out. Like these are very protected. They're very, there's a means of egress if something went in that area. Um, there is a lot of food, there's a lot of shelter, and it's just, if you, when you look at pictures, when you look at the setup, like a map of the setup of it, it looks very much like gorilla nest. So what they're doing out there in Washington State is what's intriguing. And there have been nests found in other places, British Columbia, California. I was out at the Seattle airport getting my rental car, and I met a gentleman who worked for Fish and Game out on the Hoh Reservation, the rainforest out there in Washington. And he was talking about nests that they found along the river there that the tribal members said are Bigfoot Sasquatch nests. So, there's a history of it, but now we're like right in the thick of doing research on these DNA studies, sample studies, found prints, have a lot of audio, and it's just a really cool thing to be a part of.
I mean, I just can't imagine the type of person I am. The first thing the terrain would just I would probably just geek out on just the terrain, right? Then you
It's
have to get
beautiful.
used to that and start looking for evidence. And so do they still? I mean, I don't know how to ask this because I think I know the answer, but it's just amazing, like to find evidence that fits into what we think they might be doing, and then it maybe is kind of like primates and whatever, but and you haven't seen they haven't seen any gorillas there, right? So
No,
you know,
no.
so yeah,
And the
it
first
has
thing
to
that
be
I
pretty
wondered,
amazing.
yeah, the first thing I wondered, just being a skeptical type of person, was like, well, could it be people? But I truly don't think it is, because it's just, I mean, I always say that logging surveyor was there, so people could get in there. So it's not
Mhm.
out of the realm of possibilities. But I have no idea why they would be there because, for one, if it was a hoax, it's the dumbest hoax ever because a lot of the nests you could tell were built at different times over many, many
Mhm.
years because there were fresh ones, there were ones that were old, you could hardly tell. So somebody would have had to be in there doing this for long periods of time. There is some shelter from the weather, like with the trees above you, but there's no ceiling to these
Mhm.
nests. So if it was a person like a hermit or people just living out there, that it I don't think it would be because there would be no protection from the elements really. So there's no evidence of people, no rappers, no, like people just out
Yeah.
there camping or anything like that. And one of our working theories is, with the Olympic Project and the scientists involved in Project Zoo Book as well, is that maybe, again, we're not even sure Bigfoot's making these, but maybe it could be some kind of a birthing area because of how remote this is, because of the um, the fact that these were built at different times. Like when you're looking at orangutans, they only give birth every 6 years or so they wouldn't have to be in there all the time. Another reason is that a few of the nests that were found, and at that first nesting site, and there have been more found since then, there were over 20 nests found,
Wow.
and a few of them were up in bushes, and they were really poorly made and very small. And I remember one of our first Zoom calls between the scientists and the researchers out there. One of the primate specialists said, that's what mama gorillas do when they're teaching their young how to build a nest. They do a practice nest and they put it up, in some bushes. And that's what it looked like very much. So maybe that's what's going on here. They would only need to use that remote of an area every so many years when they have young, and they would be protected and have food. And right down the embankment from the point nest, there's a salmon stream, which also gives food sources. So it's really fascinating. And what I always say is that no matter what made this, they brought a bear biologist in, said it was not bear activity, wasn't wood rat activity, wasn't anything known, no matter what is making it. And now that we're talking about those nests, like now I'm like, okay, yeah, Bigfoot's real. um, it's just fascinating. Like I don't know and understand why more scientists aren't interested. But
Right.
I'll tell you what, like whenever we brought anybody in to talk about it, they get very interested in it. So it's really cool.
It
That's an
and
understatement.
I kn yeah, I know, yeah, I'm just I couldn't imagine. I watched one of the documentaries and I believe it's in a kind of a bowl, like,
Mhm.
it's protected from most sides, right? Like, you have to go down in to the
You have
area
to
where
go,
the
they're
bears
on
are?
like finger ledges, like on a finger
Okay,
ridge. You go up and down, and it's behind, like you have to have keys to the locked gates that the logging company owns that land. So you have to drive in a really heavy duty vehicle to get to the next gate. And then you unlock that, and then you get to the next one. And finally you get out and have to hike. And we're talking about like up and down the ridges and in the valleys. And there were places where these are all made out of huckleberry bushes, like huckleberry
mhm,
branches, and some of it is so thick you had to belly crawl through that area to get to where these are. In the point nest, there were two rocks that were found that had grooves that matched up, like something had been clacking it together or clacking them together. And right below that, there were skid marks going down that embankment to the salmon stream. So, very difficult to get to. A lot of the branches that were making these nests were so high that the guys in the group that, some of them are pretty tall, they would have had to, like, from what I understand, like drag a step stool through there to get to that to
right,
break it off. And they
right,
were broken off, and some of those bushes were really tough. Like the guys couldn't break them, and they weren't sawed off. Something just snapped them. And then a lot
right.
of times the leaves were removed, which is a very primate like thing to do. So something's going on out there.
Well,
Sure.
so with my simple mind, when you start talking about these things, something has to have thumbs to do
Yeah.
the
Oh,
along, right?
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So that
Dr.
rule,
Milton went out there and he said it would have to be opposed something with
and
so it's either people
you
or
can
the
rule out, you can rule a lot of things out with just that. So, and like you said, the worst hoax ever, if you're going to put it in a spot hidden away, where usually
right,
people do
nobody's
it
gonna
out.
find your hoax.
Right, right,
Right,
and
right,
you worked on it for 30 years before, so,
right, right.
yeah,
So
but that's great to hear, that even though, you're probably excited, you're still skeptical, but that makes you ask more questions,
it
and
does,
go
but
along,
when I remember being there, that the time I've been there a few times, and the time I went out with the primate specialist, and one of our guys is called the gorilla guy, and he's been over in Africa and seen gorillas and their nesting habits and everything. And just when he and the other primate specialist walked up out of that valley and the looks on their faces, I just well, I still get chills over it because I remember standing there. I'm in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been on earth. And we're in this really exciting, journey to try to figure this out. And they were so excited about this. And it was like, oh my gosh, they're real. I remember thinking that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like it was just, and though I go back to that and then I'm like, yeah, they are. There's so much evidence. There's so many footprints. There's so all over, not just there, but we have found footprints. Not we, people in the Olympic Project have
Mhm.
found footprints, handprints, hair, uh, audio. There have been sightings around there, so it's just very exciting. And yeah, so now you're getting me excited again. I need to get back out
Oh,
there soon.
no, hey, right. Is this the one that, they keep somebody out there pretty much 24/7? Where they alternate or, like, people go
Not that
in
I
and then
know of, I
okay,
don't think so. I mean,
okay,
unless I don't know that part, but I think I would know that. But they are out there often.
okay.
Chris Spencer does a lot of audio work out there. Shane Corson might as well live there. I think he's there so often. Um, but they have a lot of good, a ring, if you want to call it, of cameras and audio, and that's what would have been the best thing to do, right? Like when they were given permission by the logging company to go investigate this, it would have been phenomenal if you could just go in there and leave it alone. But at the
Right.
time, we didn't know how much time, or they didn't know how much time. It's weird to say we because I'm part of it because I
Go
can't move.
ahead.
But no, it's like pinch me. But didn't know how long they would have. So you had to go in there and start doing something to
Right.
preserve these in case the logging company came in and clear cut all of it.
Well, and I'm sure with how much land is there and the limited amount of people at first, you probably wouldn't know where to start, and what I've heard people well, it's just like, when we go out at night, we're, just locally and all that, uh we have our phones with us, and have them recording or whatever, and then I see something on Facebook or the internet where they may take pictures every 5 seconds and I'm thinking animals that can see that, like, we're like beacons standing out there. So
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, we're learning, put that in the truck, and it seems like when you don't have something running is when we
Oh
get
yeah.
always, and,
True.
um How how do you prepare for, like, a trip like that? I mean, you have to have certain amount of water and food and supplies. Do they have, people that pack in stuff for you, or is that something you just have to
Well, I mean, it depends. At the Olympic project, I mean, you can get to most of it by your truck, and then you just have to hike in several miles. But it's not like, for example, when I went out to Oregon to the Mount Hood National Forest, that's when we had to hike and carry everything
Right,
in, and then you stay put for a while. But the Olympic project, the nest site would people would be able to come in and give you things if you're going to stay out there for a long amount of time. Yeah. It's
So
nuts.
have you ever found like a footprint or something you thought might have been a handprint or
I had
footprint?
well, it was funny because the first time I ever tried to go out looking, or anything, I found something weird, but I still don't know what it was, and it was very shallow. And I'm kind of like, that. Well, that's not going to happen, beginner's luck or whatever. But since then, no, I've been around when other people have. I was up in Stevens County, Washington. We were doing a documentary up there, and some of the guys I was with found some footprints, and we cast them and all that. And then when I was in Mount Hood National Forest with Shane and Chris and Evan Morrison, I can't remember. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anybody. My brain. Um, when we had some, we were hearing some different things, and I know I heard something really weird in the middle of the night, but we had a perimeter of cameras and audio equipment and recorders. And across the lake from where we were like fishing for our supper and everything, um, there was a possible footprint found. And it was right near a tree where they had hung up some like Sasquatch pheromone chips that I don't know if you can
Yeah.
still get those, but they're not really Sasquatch pheromones, but that's what they're called. They're like primate pheromones.
Uh-huh.
And it was near there that some of the crazy sounds are coming from and that possible footprint.
Well,
So I've been
so
around, but I didn't find them myself.
well, I had somebody ask me they were going to do a documentary, and they're like, "What, as a hunter, and you wanted to catch something on film, not actually kill it, you know, what some ideas?" And listening to some of the people and the stories that I've heard, and um, the ones that have been lucky enough to see them in a tree stand were full camoed, had the wind in their favor or whatever. And I would, if me personally, I would want a strong enough stand high up that something couldn't push it over or whatever. But I was wondering if you could get above the wind and all that. Maybe I'm not saying a tower, but and have equipment that's not on and but you could turn on at a moment's notice and maybe catch them by surprise because I've talked to a few witnesses that had incredible encounters. That was the one thing they had in common. They were up above where the wind didn't bring the smell. They were already there when the things come in. And one of them, Mike, my buddy Mike Bluler, Mississippi, um, had a 20-minute standoff because this thing didn't know what he was and came to him when he yelled at. He thought it was somebody messing up his hunting. Yeah,
Right.
you need to look up Mike's name and listen to his encounter.
I'd like to. Yeah.
He's got details of the face, the teeth, what the gums look like, and it screamed at him, caused a diversion after so long, and then ran off. And there's a lot to it. It's pretty incredible.
I'm gonna look
But
that up.
yeah, just if you look up Mike Bluler on any of the podcasts, the big podcast, Cliff and Bobo had him on. That's how I met him. But he gave so much detail. It made things make sense to me about the tree breaks, and he talked about the size of the forearms, the fingers being not as long as bananas, but at the circumference of a banana. And I'm
Right.
thinking if something is that big,
Big.
which
Yeah, that's really big.
so the thing, we can't get tell explain the approximate height and all that, but you can't get across the mass,
Right.
and when
Well,
he was telling that, yeah, when
yeah,
he was telling that, it kind of hit home with me. But
for sure. And I think talking to hunters is such a good idea. The last several years, I kind of switched my focus. I used to do a lot more speaking and doing different things at different Bigfoot conferences, and I still enjoy going to them, and nothing wrong with that. But I spend more of my time now going to outdoor shows, hunting shows, fishing shows, and set up my booth there. And I can't tell you how successful it's been with getting different stories. And, I'm here in my classroom. I'm a middle school teacher. I know people lie like today. And
yep,
I know people hoax and stuff, but there are some stories where I just can't help but believing them, where these hunters and not expecting anything like that at all. And I think going up high is a really good idea. Um, would it work? I don't know, but it sounds like a really good idea to me. But some of these guys and women have had very, very intense encounters, and they never told anybody before because they're not into Bigfoot. You
Right.
know, they're not, that's not what they do. They have this passion for hunting and what they do and have never really been asked about it before. So some of the times where I've felt the most sure that these creatures are real are when I've been talking to a hunter who his life changed. You know, there was an older gentleman who was telling myself and my research partner Tina about his sighting, and he was an older gentleman, and he said he doesn't go back into the woods anymore, and it ruined things for him because he loved hunting and he just will
Yeah.
not go back out there anymore. So
And
when you hear
yes,
those, and it's hard to say, okay, yeah, you don't know
when
what you saw.
when you're looking in that person's eyes and they're telling the story and they're recalling it and they get emotional and yeah, you can tell a lot. I mean, it's easy you're talking on the phone, even on camera or whatever, but and I have watched people recalling and have to stop for a little bit.
Yeah, me
And
too.
my hunting changed, but it didn't stop me. I was
Right.
probably naive. I was 14, and we've had things happen recently. We were going into an area, and I think we wore out our welcome a little bit, and this lasted about 20 minutes. Big rock throwing, stone, big ones, boulders, trees getting snapped, and things getting hit up against trees. And but when I heard the huff growl, that volume of air come out of the nostrils, and I had my son, he's 26, but he's still my kid, and I had him with me, and we were, like, putting oranges and apples and stuff out. I was like, "What am I doing?" Whatever that was so big that we didn't go back for a while. My son said, "I'll never come back to this part of the woods." So, we got some of that on audio, some of the howls and stuff, and we're new at this. The people will ask us, "Well, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you?" No, because 'cause we're learning, right?
You're learning, but don't listen to all that because I remember when I started into this, I got so much grief. Like, who does she think she is to have any opinions? And I'm like, come on, you're allowed to have opinions, even if it's the first day you're interested in it.
Right.
And a lot of times, people with fresh ideas, those are the people in history that have found things, right?
Mhm.
So, my advice to you is there's no experts. Um, there's no elders in Bigfooting, even though I've been accused that I'm not an elder, so I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm a little salty about it, but you just go and do your thing. You go and have your own ideas. I think what you're doing already is phenomenal. So don't listen to
And
people.
well, we've met
You
so
can
many.
learn. I'm not saying that, but it's good to keep an open mind and learn things, but
Right,
don't sell yourself short.
right, um, some people are lucky enough to live in areas, well, I say lucky. We can drive 20 minutes north or south and go to a couple places that we have access to. Um, but I know people that live in areas where they're scared to go to the car at night, where things slap the house and shake the building and the samurai chatter, the rock throwing, and they have to adjust the way they do things because they're living in an area, that's
Yeah.
remote. And so and it's nice to know people like that and they trust you. And that's probably something that you appreciate is with Shane and all of those people. When they welcomed you in, it was a sign of trust. And that's if you when you have that, that's a bond, right
It
there.
really is. Yeah, he's like my brother.
That's cool.
Sure, I
And
love him and his whole family.
and to be out there and be in the woods, and you're not always people. I don't know. I heard somebody. I did a podcast. I did an interview. They were asking me some questions, and this one commenter was like, "Oh, he's had too many encounters." People, no, we're talking about 35 years between one and the next one. You
Right.
know, and I wasn't looking for this, and now I don't even know why we do it. But
Yeah.
it's something
Yeah.
there. I'm not trying to. prove anything to anybody,
Yeah, I just
but
wanna know for myself.
yes, and so that's with my son. He's with me. He wants to see one. He said, "I want to see one. After that, I'm done." But
Right, I wanna
um,
see what's in the car.
yeah, we're gone. We're done. But to get to actually go out and do that, and it's more about the camaraderie, the fun, the being out in nature, because there's hardly ever a time that we go out and do something we don't learn something else about some other animal,
Yes,
right? He's
right.
my sound guy. We hear a noise. I pretty much know what everything is, but I'm like, wait a minute, and he'll say, no, that's whatever doing this because it's this time of year, right?
Right.
And I love that about him that he's in tune to all that, and when I see people like you going out and getting to go to these amazing places, and it's just we kind of live through you guys, and because I've been to some places that were so beautiful that you feel like you could just sit down there and stay for
Yeah,
weeks,
forever. Yeah,
and
I agree.
so so what I was going to ask you, I read something about your Project Zoo book, and the is to make it less taboo where people can talk about it, but where the scientists can come in and like they had the ones you were talking about had the experience, they had the knowledge of the nest and the primates,
Right.
and so more and more people like that get involved. It has to help others feel like they can, and uh, it has to be people they trust, and if I see something and I can tell I have pictures or whatever, I'm just Roger from Tennessee. But if somebody that they look up to or trust or whatever, they know them. It's just like you. If I go somewhere with you, you don't know me. I can tell you what I saw or heard. But if Shane tells you, you know his history. You have a history
Yeah,
together. Right?
right, and I trust him.
Right,
Right,
exactly. It's all about
exactly.
trust.
It
But
is. And it's so important. I love what you said about, like, learning about other animals and things, because Bigfoot has taken me down a whole different path in my life. Like, whether Bigfoot is real or not, I have learned so much, and I do think they are. But like you said, learn so much about other animals, and I have done that on purpose because, again, like, I didn't want to fool myself over this. So I became an Ohio certified volunteer naturalist. Went back to Ohio State to do that. Continue with different courses about everything from geology to forestry to mammals to watershed management, all that kind of thing. Um, and then I started taking survival classes, like how to make shelter, how to make fire, all these things that I didn't know because I am out in the woods as often as possible and I want to be safe. But I
right,
also want to know what is not Bigfoot. If I see a print or I hear something, what else could it be? And
exactly.
so I feel like that has strengthened me, not just as a researcher, but as a person. And it's fun, like you said. So I think I like that you said that. I like that that's what you guys are doing too.
Yeah, I mean, and some of my best moments was when now we were poor. I didn't know we were hunting and fishing because we had to at
Right,
times, but
right.
there was times when my dad, and I'm hoping that this and I learned more from him than he's ever learned from me. So, and we have people. And we you can help people that way. So they say, Amy, I had this sound the other night. I'm not sure what it is, can you listen to this for me? And then you tell them, hey, it's a mother mountain lion calling for her young. They're whistling, and you're like, because that happened to me. I'm like, that whistle, a cat whistles, and
Yep.
he proved it to me, and that's what we heard. So it's
Yeah,
good, and
that's
it's good to
fun.
know. It's fun. Yes, it's fun. It's fun to help
I
people.
wish everything was Bigfoot, but most of the time you can disprove it, which is very important. And there's a little bit of disappointment with that, but it's fun. Like my most intriguing one was I'm in Ohio, but I live very close to Pennsylvania. So actually, most of my personal research is out in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. But I get a lot of witnesses that will contact me from PA. And I had two different witnesses that contacted me from near Wampum, Pennsylvania, from the same night. And one had a sound that was on their ring camera, and one just was describing the sound, and it was really weird, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, okay, could it be this? Could it be that? You can go to different libraries of sound. You can ask people, go from your own experience, whatever. Finally, like I couldn't figure it out, and I was like, well, maybe we finally got Bigfoot audio. But then you kind of look, okay, what's going on in the forest right now? What time of year is it? All of that. And it
Mhm.
ended up, I figured out that it was bow season for black bear. And then I looked up and I heard the death moans of a black bear, and that's what it
Oh, okay.
was. So it was kind of sad, but yeah, it was so loud and crazy sounding that two different people thought Bigfoot was out in the woods that night. But unfortunately, or fortunately for the hunter, maybe it was
Well,
a it was
now
a
you
black.
know, now you know, and now that sound is in your
Yeah,
sound
we'll
bank,
know it
and you'll
prior.
know
Yes,
from now on. I
yeah.
remember one of the early sounds that my my dad and uncles, they were valuable when you had questions like that. But uh, I think one of the kids jokingly said something about Bigfoot. We went outside and I'm like, I've heard that before, but what is it? And I recorded it, sent it to my dad. He said, "You know what that is? That's a male fox. It's that time of year."
Oh,
And then
fox
now
is
you
the
and,
biggest
and
thing
when
I
you watch
get.
these
Everybody sends me fox.
yeah, and when you watch these TV shows where they play the eerie music and they want a scary sound, they play that exact sound a lot of
It's a
times, you
fox.
know.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
80% of the sounds I get are fox.
yeah, and it depends, like you said, I love that.
Yeah,
Um, Depending on what time of year, if you look at what time of year, what's going on, that can tell you a lot. I don't think a lot of people. Well, let's see. Let me back up. I don't think people pay enough attention to some of that. And that's if you know your area. Like if I come to your area, I would be kind of comfortable because we're in the same type area. But if I
yeah,
go out to Pacific Northwest, I would be like my uncle used to say, country saying, like an onion in a sack full of taters. You know what I mean? So I would
right.
I would have to be learning and depending on you, like Amy, what is that? What do we
Right.
need to do? What do
It's
we not
very
need to do?
different. Yeah, they have a lot of different sounds out there. That's for sure.
It is,
For
and
sure.
they can fool you even if you know. When it gets dark, there's a difference in hearing something in the
Oh,
daytime
yeah,
and
there
hearing
is.
something at night. So I could get into some of that. That's funny that I ended up being something really normal, but um, I I don't know. I got all these stories, but let me ask you this question. I think I know the answer. When you started doing this, you got into it for certain reasons or whatever. And then you're talking at conferences and you're going on shows and getting to know people. I didn't expect this. People see you, they recognize you maybe from this or that, and they want to talk to you, but privately about something. And like, hey, I've got a story to tell you, but you can't tell my name because I've got a job that I want. I got a job that I can't do that. There's a lady that watches our show. She's a nurse. She has some incredible audio, and I've asked her to be on, and she's close to me. So I would love to have her on. I would love to pick her brain, but she thought about it and she said, I don't know if my patients would trust me after finding out I'm interested in this. And I said, I see what you mean, but I do have a question though. What can we do? I know what you're doing to make the subject less taboo. What can we do with our shows, our little shows, and when we go to conferences and talk to people? Is there any advice you can give us to make it more less taboo?
I think you're doing the right thing. You said you were talking to her and you're keeping what she says private. For a long time, and I think it's funny. I've always thought it was funny. Project Zoobook was known in a lot of different Facebook groups as Amy Boo's pretend little group. Like they were saying that I was just making it up or something, which was funny. And I was glad about that because most of our scientists are very private about their interest because not that they're ashamed of it, not because they don't think it's worthwhile, but because their bosses might not, or they might not get the funding that they want. At this point,
Right.
we have wildlife biologists, primatologists, anthropologists, marine biologists, lots of different scientists involved in this. And so I am a mama bear about keeping them private,
Yes.
because I get it. And I don't give a hooey about whether people know my name or if they, whatever they think about me. So I just am, I am always going to be trustworthy when it comes to things like that. And so, not like looking at people that aren't scientists, what all I can suggest, like when I go to the outdoor shows and I say, you have my word that I will not spread this anywhere. I'm not going to tell anybody about it without your permission. People aren't going to show up at your house. I mean, that's all you can do. Be approachable. Um, Ask them, like right off the bat, say that, say, listen, do you want this to remain private or not? So
Right.
that they know that you're willing to do that. I don't know why people seem to open up to me. I'm glad that they do. But I feel like that has been a big thing because, especially with hunters and stuff not really into Bigfoot, we'll talk to them. Tina's the one that hunts, so she'll talk to them about fishing or hunting, and then I'll start saying, "So you stopped at our table, did everything?" And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll say, "Oh no," and they might be with some friends and they'll leave, and then one of them comes back and is like, "Well, I didn't want my buddies to hear this, but I
Right.
did see something." So if you're just personable and you say, you can tell me I'm not gonna put this anywhere in a book or anything like that, then people tell you. And it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I get really good stories and they didn't want me to say anything about it, and I'm keeping my word on that. But I have that information. So when I'm going out, to look, I know where this took place. So I can
Right.
look, in an area near there. So maybe set up some equipment or something like that. But I think you just be trustworthy, and I think people respond to that.
And I said, and when I got lucky enough, and I don't know how, I know how it happened. I'm like you, I don't know how it happened. The first convention I went to was Gatlinburg this year, and I ended up on stage because Brian King Shark needed somebody. And then after I volunteered, I was like, oh, what am I doing? You know,
I'm
so I
sure
got
you
up
were
there
great.
and did my thing. But you know how things come to you as you're talking, you don't know where they come from. But the one thing I told the audience is we're obviously interested in this for whatever reason, where we saw something, heard something, knew somebody in our life that told us a story, watched a TV show, whatever. Um, but that what you're talking about with people, this they're never going to go public with it, but they shared that piece of the puzzle with you.
Yes.
So you can share that piece of the puzzle with researchers. And if you say, well, this happened in this region at this time of year, at this elevation or whatever,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
valuable information to have,
That is valuable information. Like, you don't need to
and
give the exact details, but you can at least have that in the pool of information. Because
right.
what we
And
always say in Zoo Book is we don't expect to be the people to find all this proof. We don't care if we're the people to find all this proof. We would love it if we could help other people. And it doesn't even have to be proof, but if we could have help other people to have experiences, if that makes sense. Because like
yes,
you, it's not so much the proof. Like, I think it's just a matter of time that that's going to happen. Um, and I would hope that they would be protected. That part I see as wanting proof so that they can be protected. But other than that, I just want to know for sure for myself, like in my heart of hearts, that I know that I know that I know,
right.
that's
And
real.
so being trustworthy is, I've had this, I'm sitting on some stuff like stories, uh, where I've almost gotten threatened. Like, I'll tell you this, but do not, if I ever catch
Right,
you telling my name, but
right.
learned some amazing things,
Yeah,
just the county over from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And this family didn't call them Bigfoot because the term wasn't invented yet. But this whole family, I sat for 6 hours and listened to them, and they called them the big monkeys because that's what they reminded them of. Heard all of these stories and where they changed the way they had to do things, way they hunted, way they lived, and I felt honored to be sitting there and for them to trust me with that. And So what happens with that, even though I can't tell you a name, if somebody comes to me and wants me to explain something to them or needs help or has questions, that's in my
Yeah,
bank now to where I can may help them or point them in the right direction or kind of explain
for
things, you
sure,
know.
for sure.
And that's another part of building trust when you can help folks, you know, and don't laugh about it. And because my dad laughed at me, I told him, he laughed until about 2 years later. They had an experience. Him and my mom came home, woke me up the next morning, and said, "How big was that thing you saw?" And I told him, and we discussed what happened to them. And from that point forward, he didn't see it. They heard it jump off of a bank and land in the road behind them, and it was so big and so loud on 2 feet, and started running to them. Um, that it now it made it possible. So I was glad that that happened, so we could talk about things. Um,
Absolutely.
and I've gotten so much more out of this. I did it to get it off my chest. But what the people I met and the relationship we've built, the places we've got to go, and Amy, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've been shown stuff like this. You probably have. There are pictures and videos out there that people won't share,
Oh yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And I have seen some things that I can't even put it into words.
Right.
But I hope with what you're doing and what your group is doing and what people in the community are striving for, when they finally say, okay, this exists, it is this, it's this and this, that's why this, you know, and get it down on in a paper somewhere. And I hope that those people that will then feel comfortable coming forward so other people can see what they have. And the main reason is there's a couple reasons. They won't do it because of ridicule, and they know it's not going to prove anything. There will be people just tear it apart, which you know people do. And another thing, they don't want them to find out where it's located because it may be close to them, right?
Right.
So it's it's tough. I understand it, and I've been lucky enough to be welcomed in to some groups, and I have people that you probably know, and other people probably know. I've been pulled in a little bit to some circles where they will send me evidence and say, "Go over this for me. I need because I know you will tell me the truth. Go over this for me. I don't. You're not gonna hurt my feelings." You know, and I feel honored for that. You know, it's happened like 3 times, and I feel um, I don't know, I guess honored. I mean, to have that trust, you know.
Yeah.
And I told one guy, he didn't. I know he didn't want this answer, but without giving too much away, other people were talking about this crazy stuff, and I said, "All right, here's what I think it is. I think a June bug got on your microphone because I've used to fish with them. I know how they vibrate. I know they have a little pattern to it. You grab them, and I said that scratching, I believe, are those legs on your mic."
Really good.
And
Yeah.
and it was like, and it took me a while. It did. It was weird. It took me a while. I couldn't put my finger on it, and I said, "Okay, this is my assessment." And he said, "Thank you. I appreciate you being because that's something we can look at." Now, um, I've always been fan of mystery. Now, were you a fan of mysteries before, like books and
Oh
maybe
yeah.
pyramids and
Sherlock Holmes, like detective novels were my favorite, but I thought that's what you meant. But also,
yeah,
um, other mysteries. Well, I had to do a report when I was a teenager on the Loch Ness monster, so I was always kind of interested in that.
yeah,
But I pretty much think that it's an eel now, which makes sense to me. But who knows? Who knows? That could be
right.
something else too. But yeah, I like mysterious things for sure.
And it's almost like, well, and I know you're out there and you can put your skills to the test. And I love doing that. I love looking at a terrain and telling if something was two-legged, four-legged,
Yeah.
seeing rocks barely moved and where things it just you know what I'm saying. Just
No, I do.
I enjoy
Finding
it.
trails and stuff, it's fun. Well, you're getting me all excited because I keep going back and forth between if I was gonna go out camping this weekend because I get to leave a little bit early tomorrow. And as long as my car alignment is done, I think I'm gonna go. I think you've made up my mind because I'm going back to an area that I haven't been to. Well, one time I guess, but not to camp overnight since something kind of creepy happened. And I think I'm gonna go back.
Well,
So I'll let you know if anything happens.
well, I tell people all the time, you can't find them on the couch, sitting on the couch
That's
watching
right.
TV.
That's
And
right.
you never know. You might find some previously unrecorded
You
something.
never
You know what I
know.
mean? But
That's
anyway,
not too far from where I have like audio stuff set up. So I need to go check that too.
that's cool.
But yeah.
Well, Amy, we're coming up on an hour. Thank you so much.
Um,
I enjoy thank you for being friends on Facebook. I enjoyed interacting with folks and especially like-minded and that's another way social media is incredible. You can actually get to know people a little bit, even though we've never met.
sure.
I kind of knew how you know how you do that. You got a sense of humor like I do, and we I have to tell people all the time. Yes, I laugh, I cut up, I take this seriously.
Sure.
But you got to have fun. If this gets to where it's not any fun, I'm not
Then
going to
don't
do
do
it.
it. Yeah,
If
me too. Same.
if
Same.
if you're not having fun and I'm not having fun, we have great people in chat. They're not having fun, so
Yeah.
you know. But thank you
I've
so
been
much.
looking. You see me looking. I've been looking over trying to keep up with the chat so fast.
Well, they know, that I get caught up in the stories and my guests, and a lot of times I'll highlight, and like we get some great commenters and Miss Diane, and she's been following you. She's the project,
I like,
all of
yeah,
this. She's been commenting, and I sometimes I do that, but other times we're getting so much information. I don't want to interrupt the guest and they're great. These people, I love them to death because I mean, they make it worthwhile, and I know a lot of them. They're here to learn, like I am, and we appreciate you um, telling some. I know you have a ton of stuff, but I just appreciate you stopping by and come right after work too.
it was
And
fun. No, no problem.
hey,
It
I,
was
I
just,
I've
it
had a
was just, I
blast.
made this commitment before they switched the pair of chicken nuggets, and I'm like, heck, I'll do go through it. So it's
Well,
okay. It's
you
fine.
Well, if you if you find any evidence, let us know. If you find something exciting, if you can. I know you got things you can't,
No,
but
of course. I'd
keep
love
us up to
to.
date. We'll
This was
keep
fun.
up with you. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, and you have be safe driving home. Okay.
I will. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, this is
Thank-
scarier than the woods. I'm in Youngstown. I have to go outside now. So
All
be
right.
fine.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Let me see if I can hit the button here. Yeah, I'm